I think we are living, to start with a rather obvious point, at a time when there's a real need to rethink the normative base of our society in South Africa, in Africa, and in the world. And I just start with the context that from China's adoption of a market-driven economic model, which commenced in 1979, and we tend to forget how long the Chinese reform process has been on the go. From the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact from 1989, and from the implosion of Wall Street and the global financial services system in late 2008, these three forces, and these three volcanoes, surely suggest that there's a need for business, government, and civil society to kind of think about who they are, what kind of world they inhabit, and how they would like to relate to each other. And what I want to offer you, because my lived experience is indeed inside business, I want to offer you a kind of from the inside of business some thoughts about what rethinking who we are and how we want to live would involve. And I'm suggesting that there are 4 critical challenges that we need to look at. And the first starts with the issue of values. And I want to suggest that there's a need to explore, to describe, to define, and to internalize a 21st century business set of values. And I really would like to stress that here I'm talking about not a logo, not a zip line, not an advertising issue. I personally hate the idea of mission statements. I'm looking at something that in quite a deep way problematizes what a business is for, what it's there to do, that interrogates the simple expressions. And I'm maybe because it's the South Africa we're living in right now, I'm terrified of the simple, slick phrase, because my experience of life and business is that it's quite a complicated thing, and that it often involves trade-offs. And if there's one word, one phrase I could leave with you for this afternoon, it would be the phrase trade-off. So, we do live with a 19th century legal and accounting concept that the company is its shareholders. Oddly enough, that concept hasn't changed fully with our new Companies Act, and nor actually has it changed fully with King III. Well, that's slightly cheeky of me to say this, but I can say this because I'm involved with a company that's going through a change in its legal status. And what I find is that the fiduciary duty is defined as only looking after the interests, the financial interests, and implicitly the short-term financial interests of the shareholder. The company is the shareholder. The workers and the managers magically don't exist. Look at our company law. So, we sort of pay lip service to stakeholder models, but the inherited commercial law that we live with in the Anglo-Saxon English-derived world, the company is the shareholder. And, it's a deep nonsense. It's a very deep nonsense, and also it's an even greater nonsense when you ask who is the shareholder in contemporary 21st century capitalism, and then you discover that capital formation is mainly contractual through employees, through pension funds and insurance policies, and that the people representing the employees are, that's one of my favorite phrases, 23-year-old fund managers. And the fund managers manage a portfolio of 30, 40, or 200 shares. And they are dedicated to achieving capital gains because dividends became unpopular in the 1990s, the first decade of the 21st century. So the way that they make money is by buying and selling shares. They are day traders. This is the equivalent of timeshare in terms of property management. So what I'm appealing for is to say, who is the company? Now, obviously, the people who put up the money are very important. So the source of You've got to have money to start a business. So, and the people who invest in your company are owners. But let's just not neatly accept that word. Let's think through the word. Equally clearly, without management, the company wouldn't exist. Clearly, without employees, it wouldn't exist. What about the customers? Not a word that features very much in the norms of ownership of the means of production. Oddly enough, neither in a capitalist nor a socialist version thereof. Very interesting about Peter Drucker. Once I had some time on my hands and I read a large amount of what Peter Drucker had written over the 50-year life that he led, productive life. I was delighted to find that he changed his mind about almost everything that he said from the beginning to the middle to the end. And this was a sign of an intellect alive. But actually there was one thing that he more or less didn't change his mind about, and that was the purpose of business. And he framed it as being to meet the needs of a customer.